Why are we so hung up on a freedom that took place 3,500 years ago? What about our current oppression? What about oppression throughout our history? This is the question that the Maharal, Rabbi Yehuda Lau of Prague, posed in the 1500s. And he points out something quite unique about the liberation of Passover. He says, how did we get liberated? We didn't liberate ourselves. We didn't free ourselves. God freed us. So when God freed us, that wasn't just a geographical freedom. That would have been the case if we freed ourselves, if we had escaped, or if we had earned the freedom, or if somebody, a human being, liberated us. But because God liberated us, it wasn't just a geographical freedom, it was an essential freedom. We didn't just become free because of where we were, we became free because of who we were. That became part of our identity, even if we're not always geographically free. But essentially, at heart, as Jewish people, we have the ability to be free of oppression, to live freely of other people's opinions, and to live a life that is in line with our values, that is in line with God, that is in line with the Torah, unoppressed by people, if we will that in the inside. Or to put it differently, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson phrased it like this: only the body of a Jew can be in exile. The soul of a Jew is never in exile. And if we become more soul-oriented, we can actually live more freely. And I'll show you a story that will illustrate that, but hold on. I'll tell you something fascinating. There's different names that the holiday of Passover is referred to. The Torah refers to Passover as Chag HaMatzos, but the holiday of matzah. Or, in Talmudic literature, we refer to it as Chag HaPesach, the holiday of Passover, of Pesach. In the prayer liturgy, in the Siddur, we refer to Pesach as Zman Cheruseinu, the time of our freedom. And I think what's fascinating about that statement is its historical context of when it was penned. Prior to the destruction of the first Beit HaMikdash, there was no official prayer text. There was no prayer book. Prayer was literally just from the heart. That all changed with the destruction of the first Beit HaMikdash, the destruction of the first temple, when the Jews were exiled to Babylon 2,500 years ago. At this point, Ezra, the scribe who was the leading sage, together with his court, felt that people may not actually pray from the heart at this point, because number one, we're not living in a land where Hebrew is our native language, and we might not find the words to articulate prayer. Number two, we may not have the sensitivity to want to connect. So if we have a standard text, we're going to actually be able to pray and pray consistently and focus. So that's kind of the basic history behind the text of the Siddur, the text of the Amidah. And as part of this text, when creating the prayers for the holidays, he coins Passover by the name Zman Cheruseinu, the time of our freedom. That's right, during exile, shortly after the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, we're not in our land, we're in a foreign place. And we refer to Passover as Zman Cheruseinu, the time of our freedom, because freedom is not just geographical. We would love to be geographically free. We wait for that day when Mashiach is going to come and we're all going to be together. But we also have to live, at this point, until that happens, we have to live essentially free. We have to be free on the inside. We have to live independently from what the world opinion thinks. We have to be proud Jews, even if we don't care what anti-Semites think. Israel needs to do what they need to do to protect the Jewish people and to protect the sacredity of the land, despite what the United States or other countries, the UN, might think. It doesn't matter what people think, because we have to be free. Freedom is highly associated with simcha, with joy. When we have freedom, we have joy, but other way around as well. When we intentionally develop joy, we have freedom. That's why on the night of freedom, first night of Passover, of Pesach, the Arizal had a tradition to celebrate and participate with the Seder with immense joy, with incredible simcha. So I'll tell you a great story about joy and freedom. There was a chassid named Reb Zalman Schneerson. He was a Chabad activist and rabbi in France, and he was visiting Chabad World Headquarters for Simchas Torah. And prior to the hakafos, to the dancing of the Torah at Chabad World Headquarters, there was a farbrengen, and Chassidim gathered around the table, and they were saying L'chaim. And you got to imagine the scene here. Thousands of Chassidim ready to dance with the Torah together. An incredible experience. And they were saying L'chaim. He was at a little corner saying L'chaim with a bunch of people. And he was actually not able to toast, to actually say L'chaim, to actually participate in drinking alcohol. He had health issues. His health issues were so extreme to the point that at this point in his life, he was not ambulatory. He was in a wheelchair. He requested that one of the students bring him a Tanya. He felt like he needed a boost, and that's really what the Tanya does. It gives a soul boost. It gives a joy boost. He opens to chapter 33 of Tanya, which talks about joy, which talks about giving that soul resuscitation. And he reads the first line. He was on fire. He was so enamored. He literally popped out of his seat. Again, this guy was in a wheelchair. He popped out of his seat and he started dancing with everybody. The joy was palpable. The joy was incredible. This guy left Egypt. This guy left limitations. This guy left boundaries. This guy lived freely. He didn't define his life by his current circumstances at that moment. And if we as Jews don't define our life by what other people think, and we're proud Jews, Israel doesn't define itself by world opinion, but does what it needs to do, we are going to be free, not only in the exile, but we'll have the redemption too. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.